Hello and welcome to Continental Prime, reaching you from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Sulaiman Alede, and here are the headlines others are. South Africa's ruling party suspends Secretary General Ace Magashule. 29 students abducted in northwestern Nigeria have regained their freedom. Kenya detects 5 cases of Indian variant of COVID-19. Details of these and others shortly. The news begins in South Africa, where the Zulu Queen regent has been interred in a private ceremony at a royal palace in KwaZulu-Natal. Her official funeral service will be held on Friday. The remains of Queen Hygiene Dlamini Zulu were accompanied from Johannesburg to her final resting place by a contingent from the Gauteng provincial government. Groups of Zulu warriors and maidens also joined the procession earlier today. I'm now joined by Shalu Mbatha, a Zulu royal historian and author. Mbatha is a lecturer at the University of Zululand and wrote the book Zulu Empire Decolonized. Good to have you join me this evening.
Good evening.
Well, the Zulu Queen regent's burial is going to be a private affair, much like her husband's interment. Why is there such secrecy about this process?
It isn't a secrecy whatsoever. It's according to the Zulu culture that when the royalty is buried, it's not for public consumption. What I can reveal is that they slaughter a goat, to inform the ancestors that their daughter is coming to, coming to join them, and as well as that they cover the body with a skin of an animal that would have been hunted specifically for the occasion. But it's done with a lot of dignity. And the women take the center role in the process. Because according to Zulu culture, when you get born, you are born by a woman. And when you depart, the people to welcome you in the other world are also women. So, but yes, nothing else more than that can be revealed, really. But there's nothing untoward, nothing gory happens at all.
Well, anyway, the Zulu culture is also often seen as patriarchal, and of course, but Queen Dlamini has had a significant role to play in the royal household of the community. Perhaps there's no secret here, so you can tell us more on this.
You see, the Queen is a princess from Eswatini. She grew up in a royal family. When she came to South Africa as our bride of the Zulu nation, one of the brides, because His Majesty had 6 wives, she revived the old ancient ceremonies. There are about 5 of them. The reed dance, I'm sure it's popular, I'm sure you know about that. Wait for the maidens, they come and they get taught how to behave as young ladies and how to become good mothers, and more important, how to become leaders in society. And the other one called Sivivane, that is for women only, where women get together, discuss problems that affect their families and the nation. It's almost like a workshop of they help one another to cope. But also remember, whatever issues that women deal with, they have a multiplier effect in society. And also the First Fruit Festival, that is for the young men, which is also led by the king of the time. And basically it culminates in the young Zulu regiment, young men that formed a regiment. They kill a bull with their hands. This is to teach them bravery, and I can imagine the adrenaline rush, but it's just to teach young men discipline and to be determined, and more importantly, they have to be brave. So the Queen brought those things back because during apartheid, They were banned. They were told these things were barbaric. But she was very determined when she came from Swaziland that they must be brought to the fore. And I must say they really, really did help because it helped to guide the youth, especially.
Quite an interesting culture from the perspective you just opened up. But is this the first time that the Zulu nation has been led by a woman?
Hardly, hey, no. Since 1781, Princess Mkabayi, she was regent and she was in the 30s. And she actually became a regent 5 times whenever there was a problem or a break between kings having to take over the throne. And the second female to do that was Queen Ogamsweli. She also became a regent 2 times when her husband, King Cetshwayo, in 1879, after he defeated the British, they arrested him and sent him to jail in Cape Town and to England. She took over running the country, the Zulu nation. And then when her son, King Dinizulu now, was also arrested by the British, she took over. But this time she did not just become regent, she actually formed more regiments, built palaces, and brought a lot of dignity to women. And the third one was Queen Christina. There was a, dispute about who's supposed to be the king. She produced a will that was found to be valid. And so women have always played a very major role in the running of the Zulu nation. I know the image or the brand that the Zulu have is that this is a very tough and patriarchal society, but you'll be surprised how much power women have. I mean, I'm currently busy with my PhD and I'm looking at Zulu feminism. These amazing things that the Zulu men, the power they control, but they never display the power in public. It's always done, behind closed doors. And yeah, they are truly the power behind every throne.
Well, Charlotte, before we let you go, there are speculations as to who the next king will be. Do you have an idea? You want to help us unravel this?
Oh, I wish I could. I wish I couldn't. No, I couldn't, I'm afraid, no. We'll have to get a proper announcement from the royal family, I'm afraid.
Well, many thanks, Shalu Mbathe, for unpacking that for us. Always a delight speaking with you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Well, staying in South Africa, the ruling party's Secretary General has been suspended from the party pending the outcome of corruption charges he's facing. Ace Magashule was served with the suspension letter after he failed to step down from the party's leadership structures. Magashule faces more than 20 charges of corruption, fraud and money laundering linked to an asbestos contract during his time as Premier of the Free State Province. Now, the suspension from the most powerful office of the party follows an announcement by party President Cyril Ramaphosa last month that all members who had been criminally charged would have 30 days to step aside or face suspension. Now with me this evening, I have journalist and editor Candace Bailey to discuss these developments. Candace, good to see you again. Now, this is based on a decision taken by the party's executive structure. Is this a new issue?
Good evening, Suleiman. It is indeed, based on the decision taken by the NEC last month. The resolution was passed and the National Working Committee affirmed the decision this week. But this issue really dates to 2017 when it first came up in the policy conference of the party at the Nasrec policy conference. At that time, corruption was an issue. It remained an issue for quite a long time. So the ANC-NEC has been discussing the issue of corruption and the potential step-aside rule for the past 3 years or so. Last year, it really hit ahead when the president said, that the image of the ANC was being tainted and that they needed to take some action. And that's when the step-aside rule really came into play.
How important is this move for the ANC?
I think it's very important, Suleiman. South Africa is facing an election year this year, and obviously the ANC would want to be seen to be taking some definitive action against corruption in its ranks. The ANC has come come against lots of criticism for its failure to deal with corrupt leaders, to deal with rot in its ranks. And by doing this, it really is taking a step in the right direction and showing a show of transparency.
Was that not a good time for Mr. Magashule? What does this decision mean for him?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's not a good time for him. He's indicated that he will appeal this decision, but at the moment, I mean, what it essentially means is that he will not be able to make any pronouncements on the ANC. He won't be able to do any electioneering or set up any electioneering campaigns over the next few months until his case is finalized. He's set to go to trial in August. So the case will appear in court in August again. And until then, he will not be able to do anything. It is quite a setback for him because the Secretary General's office is quite an important office within the ANC. It does make a lot of important decisions. So he is being held back by this decision.
Well, are there other party members facing charges?
Indeed. He's not the only one. He's probably the highest ranking ANC member to be facing charges like this. But there are about 5 other members in the ANC who have been charged with corruption and fraud. 2 in the Eastern Cape province they have been suspended since their charges came to light. But there are several other members in several other provinces who are also facing charges and are likely to have to step down. What we do know is that the ANC has asked its provincial officers to compile lists of members who are facing charges of corruption and other serious crimes so that they can be served with letters if they haven't stepped down voluntarily.
Well, certainly a very powerful politician in South Africa and even on the continent is Magashule. What has been his reaction to the suspension?
Well, in fact, he is definitely fighting back, I can say that. What he did say in November last year at his bail appearance was that he wouldn't step down. He wouldn't take one person's decision. Obviously, at that time, he was referring to the statements made by ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa that, the corruption in the ranks really needed them to have the step-aside rule put in place. So he is obviously being very defiant. He has sought the counsel of senior ANC leaders to guide him in this process. So he is obviously fighting back, and we should expect a continued battle from him in the next few weeks.
Well, we'll keep our tabs on that. Many thanks, Candice, for unpacking this for us.
Thanks, Lemon.
Now, we come back to Nigeria, where the remaining 29 students abducted from the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, FACA, in the northwestern state of Kaduna have regained their freedom. Chairman of the Parents Committee, Mr. Abdullahi Usman, confirmed their release. He explained that the victims were released some minutes past 4 p.m. around the Kindada area in Giwa local government area of the state. Were on their way back to the state capital, Kaduna. Now, Usman, however, refused to disclose the amount paid as ransom to the bandits for the release of the students. Now, staying in Nigeria, now where the electoral body has started converting voting points across the country to polling units, head of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said the conversion is to enable eligible voters have access to polling units during the elections and disaggregate voting points that were initially overcrowded. Professor Yakubu, while visiting voting points in Nigeria's federal capital Abuja and the neighboring northwest state of Nasarawa, says voters will now have access to polling units near their homes. He adds that the process is going on simultaneously across Nigeria.
All the national commissioners are out in the country, visiting the states of the Federation to verify the work of converting the voting points into polling units. So we decided from the headquarters to visit some of the polling units and voting points in the FCT and also in Karu, in Nasarawa State. So we have done the FCT, we are now in Karu. Recall that as part of our engagement with stakeholders, we showed images of some of the most congested polling units in the country from Karu in Nasarawa State. So I here to verify that the right thing is being done, converting those voting points to polling units and relocating them as per the Commission's guidelines.
When the CVR starts now, voters will have the opportunity to choose where they want to vote. That is where they are, where they used to vote, where they voted last election. And then the next election, they have the option to vote there or to move elsewhere.
While staying in Nigeria, the House of Representatives has condemned the gruesome murder of a female job seeker in the southern state of Akwa Ibom. The murder of Inyobong Umore, who was found buried in a shallow grave, has sparked nationwide condemnation. A lawmaker from a state, Unyime Edem, says there are fears the family of Ms. Umore might not get justice. Edem urged Parliament to direct the Inspector General of Police to ensure the family is protected, following reports that they are receiving death threats. He also expressed concerns over reports that the suspect in police custody might be released soon.
Cognizant that it has been reported that the assailant, upon his arrest by the police and subsequent voluntary conversion, boasted that he is well connected and will be released from the police custody scot-free in a matter of days. Bothered that the family members of the deceased have reportedly raised an alarm, receiving strange phone calls and threats of various degrees, and have been asked to withdraw the case. Condemn in strong terms the acts of sexual assault and gruesome murder of Ms. Inyobong Ephraim Umore as barbaric, inhuman, and despotic. 2, mandate the Inspector General of Police to immediately commission and take over the investigation and prosecution of the perpetrators of the heinous crime. Mandate the Inspector General of Police to ensure the protection of our family members from harassment, intimidation, and harm.
Well, Kenya and Tanzania have kick-started the process towards the long-awaited Mombasa Dar es Salaam gas pipeline deal. This received a huge boost following this week's meeting between Tanzania's President Samia Hassan and President Uhuru Kenyatta in Nairobi. The Tanzanian leader has been in Kenya on an official state visit. News Central's Horn of Africa and East of Africa reporter Abdul Nur Abden has more on this.
It was a long trip that culminated at State House in Nairobi as His Excellency President Suluhu Samia of Tanzania, the first Tanzanian president in a while to visit Nairobi, was received by her host, President Uhuru Kenyatta, at State House, Nairobi. It was pomp and colour at State House, Nairobi, as the Kenyan band entertained President Suluhu Samia, where she also inspected a guard of honour. Two neighbourly nations with historical relations, but of late, in terms of business, the two have suffered soured relations, especially on investors. This massively affected the trade relations between the two countries, leading to President Uhuru Kenyatta sending his emissary to meet President Samia Suluhu on a mission to address the stalemate. But it was all smiles in Nairobi as the two leaders met for further talks, and they later emerged in happiness. The speeches from the two leaders were largely dominated by messages of brotherhood and unity as they sought to strengthen the relations between the two countries and the investors. Kenya and Tanzania have one of the largest borders, even though they remain tourism competitors. They have now chosen to complement, not to compete. In Tanzania's investment table, Kenya is 5th globally in the countries with the largest shares of investment and the first in East Africa. Kenya's investment volume in Tanzania is worth $1.7 billion, creating more than 50,000 jobs in the Tanzanian employment sector. But the figure is very low for Tanzanians in Kenya, with a mere investment of $450 million. One of the major outcomes of the meeting between the two leaders today is the gas pipeline deal between Mombasa and Dar es Salaam. President Kenyatta was first to praise the milestone.
Kujenga pipeline ya gas kutoka Dar es Salaam mpaka Mombasa, na hiyo itarahisisha bei ya stima katika nchi yetu na itasaidia pia kuhakikisha kwamba
President Samia has added that our country was committed to the cause.
Swala la ujenzi wa bomba la kusafirishia gesi kutoka Dar es Salaam hadi Mombasa, huu ni mradi wa muda mrefu. Tunashukuru leo tumeweka kidole na kilichobaki ni utekelezaji, tutakwenda kusimamia.
Another aspect of the talks between the two leaders is the solution for the handling of COVID-19 pandemic at the borders. Whereas Kenya continues to handle the pandemic with much seriousness, the Tanzanian border on its part, because of its stand on the COVID-19, Kenya had created doubts, but now the health ministries will collaborate to address this stalemate.
Lakini jengine aliloliongeza Mheshimiwa Rais, na mimi nakubaliana nalo, ni kwa waziri wetu wa afya kukaa na kurahisisha mfumo wa kuingia na kuchekiwa kwenye mambo haya yaliyoingia ya COVID au corona. Watu wetu wapate huduma za haraka, kupima, kuchekiwa ili waweze kupita na biashara ziendelee.
And now, President Samia Suluhu Hassan has invited President Uhuru for the country's Uhuru celebrations, that is independence in Swahili.
When the news returns, updates on coronavirus across Africa as Seychelles announces new COVID-19 restrictions despite being one of the leading countries in COVID-19 vaccinations. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the moment COVID-19 became a global pandemic, washing of hands became more important than ever. To that end, and hand hygiene has become almost compulsory and top of mind for a lot of people, especially as efforts continue to curb the spread of COVID and other diseases. With that said, today is World Hand Hygiene Day. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more on this.
Hand Hygiene Day is a day set aside to maintain global promotion, visibility and sustainability of hand hygiene in healthcare, as well as bringing people together in support of hand hygiene improvement around the world. With this year's theme and slogan, Save Lives, Clean Your Hands, the World Health Organization's global campaign focuses on achieving effective hand hygiene action, especially as nations across the world strive to put an end to COVID-19 pandemic.
Frequent hand washing is among the top interventions to prevent COVID-19, diarrhea, and other diseases. We have seen adherence to preventive measures slipping across the region. So I call on individuals, leaders, and civil society groups to use this opportunity to reinvigorate and mobilize community to keep up good hand hygiene practices.
Although washing of hands seems basic, the importance of this critical action to preventing the risk of transmission of infections cannot be underemphasized. Public health experts explain the need to enforce the practice of hand washing.
A lot of germs get transferred to your hands. When these germs enter your hand, it can either make you sick when they enter the mouth. Most of the diseases that come from that are actually what we call the respiratory problem, the diarrhea diseases, skin diseases, and eye diseases. These are the common diseases that can come from improper hand washing. Now, look at the number of children that die from diarrhea. More than 1.8 million children die from diarrhea every year. If you embrace proper hand washing, that would be good in such a way that you can reduce respiratory diseases in those children and even diarrhea diseases.
With all being said, it has become the need of the hour to follow hand hygiene routines for a safe and healthy environment at home, schools, offices, and other public spaces. Omolola Ololade, News Central Television, Lagos.
Now let's look at our updates on the coronavirus. Kenya has now detected 5 cases of the Indian COVID-19 variant. Acting Director General at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, said on Wednesday that the 5 cases are all Indian nationals who arrived in Kisumu on Thursday last week. Dr. Amoth said they are all currently quarantined. The health official also tweeted an image of himself taking the COVID-19 vaccine to allay fears about taking the jab. Now, in Seychelles, authorities have ordered the closure of schools and banned sporting activities and social events to deal with the surge in coronavirus infections. President Wavel Ramkalawan said the restriction measures will be reviewed closer to May 24. The island nation, which tops the world charts for the most vaccinated populations against COVID-19, will also require non-essential workers to work from home and effect a 100 hours curfew. Now, health officials say 85% of the country's 97,000 population has been vaccinated, and they are dealing with over 1,600 active cases. In North Africa, Egypt will receive another 4.9 million doses of different types of coronavirus vaccines in May. A cabinet statement on Wednesday said the earliest will be a shipment of 1.7 million doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, which is due to arrive next week as a part of the global COVAX agreement. The cabinet said Egypt will receive an additional shipment of 1.7 million AstraZeneca vaccines by the end of May. 1 million doses of the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine to arrive in 2 shipments, and 500,000 doses of the Chinese Sinovac vaccine. Now, in the meantime, closing hours of Egyptian stores, malls and restaurants will be brought forward for 2 weeks to 1900 GMT, or that's 9 p.m. local time, as a part of efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 in the country. The new restrictions announced by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli on Wednesday will start on Thursday. Madbouli said large gatherings and concerts will be banned over the same period, and beaches and parks will be shut between May 12 and 16. Now, May 5 each year is marked by the World Health Organization as the World Asthma Day. In Africa, ignorance and superstition around the disease is reported to lead to more unattended cases of the ailment. News Central's Mary Chinde takes a look at what Africa needs to do to curtail the asthma disease as it affects the continent.
An estimated 262 million persons were in 2019 affected by asthma, and 461,000 deaths were recorded globally due to the ailment. Now that's according to the World Health Organization. At the moment, about 300 million persons have asthma, and current trends suggest that by 2025, an additional 100 million persons may be living with asthma. It is World Asthma Day. This year, the conversation is woven around uncovering asthma misconceptions. In Africa, doctors say linking asthma with spiritual attacks is one of the common misconceptions about the ailment.
We are not really the first people to see the patient. The patient is initially taken to the churches, and then some of them to the traditional healers. And then when things get out of hand there, they now bring them to the hospital. And when you ask them, they will say she just got the spiritual invocations, something came over her, and she got possessed, and that led to the asthma attack.
According to the WHO, asthma is often underdiagnosed and undertreated, particularly in low and middle income countries, especially in Africa. Medics say more needs to be done.
It needs a global approach. And I think in this year's World Asthma Day, it's high time that the UN came up with a global initiative.
Reports say undertreated asthma patients stand a risk of suffering from sleep disturbances, tiredness during the day, and poor concentration.
It's a system disease that is in the respiratory tract, but it can now turn into exacerbate cardiovascular conditions. So people will start developing complications because what we call the pulmonary wedge pressure becomes high, it becomes a big load on the heart, and there will be increase in the cardiac dimensions, and which ultimately might result in cardiac failure.
As the world marks World Asthma Day, everyone is advised to seek medical attention as soon as symptoms such as cough, wheeze, shortness of breath, and chest tightness persists. Mary Chinda for News Central TV.
Still ahead, former U.S. President Donald Trump will remain suspended from Facebook and Instagram after an oversight board upheld his ban. More on this when we return. So he's not returning anytime soon to Facebook and Instagram. That's Donald Trump, as that ban has been upheld by Facebook's oversight board. Now, the former president was banned from both sites in January following the Capitol Hill riots. The board, however, ordered Facebook to review the decision and justify a proportionate response that is applied to everyone, including ordinary users. But it criticized the permanent nature of the ban as beyond the scope of Facebook's normal penalties. It said Facebook must respond within 6 months. Now, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has said conflict or economic shocks often related to COVID-19 and extreme weather has pushed at least 155 million into acute food insecurity in 2020. This is contained in the 2021 Global Report on Food Crisis released today, Wednesday. Now, the report showed that at least another 28 million people faced emergency level of acute food insecurity in 2020, meaning they were one step away from starvation. Director of the FAO's Office for Emergencies and Resilience, Dominic Burgeon, said this year's report shows a serious increase in the number of people affected by acute food insecurity. Now, the World Health Organization says an international hub for pandemic control is to open in Berlin to ensure better preparedness and transparency in the fight against likely future global health threats. Now, supported by the German government, the center will specialize in gathering epidemic intelligence, data, surveillance, and analytics innovation. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said it will open later this year. Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, echoed the need for greater cooperation and information sharing between countries to complement existing international health regulations. He also underscored the likely reoccurrence of new global health threats. Main business, a survey on Wednesday has shown Kenya's private sector activity plunged in April, contracting for the first time in 11 months after fresh restrictions were imposed to curb a third wave of COVID-19 infections. The market Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index dropped to 41.5 from 50.6 in March, well below the 50.0 mark that separates growth from contraction. The reading was the lowest for the PMI since May of last year. Tululokbe Adelero Balogun has the rest of the business stories.
This is Business on NC Continental Prime. We start in Southern Africa, where South Africa's Standing Committee on Appropriations has received a submission from the Parliamentary Budget Office on the 2021 appropriation and supplementary appropriation bills, which outline the reprioritizing of 2.7 billion rand in funds for South African Airways, concluding business rescue. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni has long been critical of the use of the Treasury to subsidize state-owned entities, which should be generating revenue and putting it back into the Treasury. The national carrier exited the business rescue process at the end of April, bringing a close to the undertaking, which began in December of 2019. However, the airline and its subsidiaries are far from being out of the woods, as SAA Technical is in the middle of planning job cuts, and Mango Airlines also faces financial challenges that threaten to ground its flights recently. Business now takes us to West Africa, where global foreign direct investment collapsed in 2020. It fell 42% from $1.5 trillion in 2019 to an estimated $859 billion. This comes from the latest reports from the UNCTAD Investment Trends Monitor. Nigeria earned $2.6 billion of the global volume. According to the trade body, such a low level was last seen in the 1990s and is more than 30% below the investments that followed the 2008 to 2009 global financial crisis. Before the pandemic struck, a former minister of Nigeria highlighted what Africa's largest economy needs to do to get more investments.
We have to create the environment that will attract investment. I mean, investment finds opportunities for itself. Nobody's going to invest in an environment in which they're not sure about the return. They're not sure that they'll get their investment back. They're not sure about that the environment is conducive. So I think that's the challenge. I mean, for us, for government, and also for us in the private sector, to ensure that we create an environment in which people are attracted to this environment. And once we do that, I think the numbers will be humongous. It's a huge economy. We have factors that are attractive by themselves: huge population, huge land mass, arable land. You hear all these things: mineral resources. We have oil and gas. We have. Why aren't they being tapped?
Now, staying in West Africa, manufacturing in Nigeria is beset with quite a few challenges, particularly electricity. Most firms rely on emergency power generators to run seamless operations, adding to the cost. There are also taxation issues, inconsistencies in regulation and policy, and trade facilitation issues, among others. This has led to a reduction of foreign investments, among other things. Now, earlier today on Business Edge, I spoke to Tokwe Fasua, an economist and the CEO of Global Analytics Consulting Limited.
Manufacturing is a long-term, venture, and it takes a whole lot before you can manufacture one unit or whatever it is you set out to. Everything in the value chain of your operational chain must be in place. And then, of course, so like you rightly mentioned, policy inconsistency, even wrong policies. Recently, there's a very interesting one that happened with in the auto manufacturing sector. We know that we don't have a lot of that in Nigeria, but there's a couple of people tried exposure in Kaduna. There's thing somewhere in Newi there. And all of a sudden, government decided to remove the import tariff. 35% southern. Yes, not. They said the tariff. It used to be 35% tariff and 35% other charges, which made it about 70% for importation of the new cars. But they took out the 35% and basically reduced in half the tariff barrier for bringing in new vehicles. And so you would wonder, so if somebody actually had set up operation hoping that, that sector was protected in Nigeria, all of a sudden they disappear.
And business wraps in the northern part of the continent, where the Prime Minister of Libya's Government of National Unity, Abdelhamid Bahiba, has received the Kuwaiti Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmad Nasser Al Mohammed Al Sabah. And this is in order to discuss the latest political developments in Libya and ways of enhancing bilateral relations. Now, they discussed joint cooperation in facing common challenges, especially the effects of the global COVID-19 pandemic. During his visit, Al-Sabah also met with the head of the Presidential Council, Mohammed Al-Manifi, to deliver a personal message to him from the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Sabah. Now, the Government of National Unity, which took power in March this year, is meant to bring together a country that has been torn apart by a nearly decade-long civil war and work towards preparing this country for general elections slated for December 24th this year. And that's it on Business on NC Continental Prime. My name is Solulokwe Adeleru Balogun. It's back to Suleiman.
Many thanks, Solulokwe. You know, trying to find out what's trending across the continent can really be a task, but you have someone who's really up and about trying to do that for you, Seun Bankole.
Hello and welcome to NC Trends. I am Seun Bankole. Now, it's been 11 years since the demise of Nigerian President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and Nigerians on social media have put out different posts to remember the late president, whose iconic achievements include reduction of petrol pump price from 75 naira to 65 naira, the review of the armed forces and police officers' salary, endorsement of the electoral reforms review, among others. In remembrance of the President Yar'Adua, who died on this day in 2010 after 3 years in office, former President Goodluck Jonathan tweeted, "Today I celebrate my boss, friend, colleague and brother, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, who departed this world 11 years ago. As politicians, we shared a common vision of a peaceful, united and just nation." Moving away from that, at young_attorney tweeted, "On this day 11 years ago, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua passed away. He is indeed one of the best presidents Nigeria ever had, a true democrat, selfless leader, and an achiever par excellence. May Allah forgive his shortcomings and grant him the highest rank in Jannah. Amen." Finally, on Yar'Adua, at Muhammad Kabir Uthman tweeted, "Life goes on at its own pace, but some memories can never be forgotten or erased from the mind of the dearest ones. Your legacy of integrity and dedication will always remain in our thoughts. May the soul of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua continue to rest in peace. Amen." Yar'Adua truly will never be forgotten. We move to Ghana, where the hike in fuel price sparked an outrage among petroleum consumers who have taken to social media to express their disappointment through the hashtag #FixTheCountryNow. Ghanaians are also calling out the leadership of the country to fix Ghana. They have taken to social media to pour out their frustration about the high cost of living, poor quality of life, economic hardships, water shortages, erratic electricity supply, graduate unemployment, and so on happening in Ghana. This tweet from Oppressy reads, "World Bank gave Ghana $100 million to tackle COVID-19. But the government is making excuses that COVID affected the economy so much, as if only Ghana experienced COVID. What did they use the $100 million for? #FixTheCountryNow." Moving on to the next tweet from @King of Accra, who says that the people who are telling us to fix ourselves mean to tell us that we are the ones dragging the nation behind. This also means they feel entitled to their position. This should tell you that if we do not speak up, we will end up poorer in 10 years. It is not well. Fix the country now. Mark Jordan tweeted, "All that the Ghanaian youths are asking for are accessible electricity, quality education, good health care, employment and jobs with decent salaries, affordable rent, good drinking water, accessible roads, just the basic things. #FixTheCountryNow." We move swiftly away from Ghana back to Nigeria, where popular Islamic preacher Sheikh Gumi has called on the federal government to yield to the demands of the bandits for the release of the abducted Greenfield University students. Recall that his bandits requested for 100 million naira and 10 motorbikes before releasing the Greenfield University students. Sheikh Gumi's statement partly reads, "Why not give them the money, they release the boys, and then we pursue them and get our money back and do what is necessary? It is simple logic. So bring the money from the central bank." Reacting to this, Dr. Olufumilayo tweeted, "Sheikh Gumi knows where bandits are, but the Nigerian army doesn't. Sheikh Gumi knows where bandits live and that they live in huts, but the Nigerian army doesn't know this. Sheikh Gumi knows that the bandits drink from streams, but the Nigerian army doesn't know. Isn't God wonderful?" Moving to the next tweet, at Maurice Moye tweeted, if our security agencies are actually serious people, if they have the fear of Jesus or Allah or whatever they believe in, an invitation and sit down with Sheikh Gumi will reveal the identity of these bandits and we end this nonsense mess. But are they serious enough? I can't sleep. Finally on that, DJ Switch tweeted, is it that Gumi is a computer program designed to whine us every now and then, or are we in a matrix where Gumi's program's mission is to embed this messed up code so that we sympathize with terrorists? Is DSS a children's game? Is the government Ludo? Niger can make someone mad.
Well, apologies for that lack of sync there with the picture and audio of that fine report by Seun Bankole. Now, you know, tonight in sports, Bafana have a new manager, and organizers of the Billie Jean Cup are seeking a new host. But don't take my word for it. Let's hear about these stories from Onyinye Obaro.
Thank you so much, Sulaiman. Of course, not taking your word for it. Let's start with sports story and updates. We begin with sports stories from golf, where Kai De Beer has raced to a 3-shot win over Dricus Joubert in the IGT Tour Chase at the Service Golf Club. This makes him the latest golf South African elite squad member to claim victory in the Big Easy IGT Tour. The 23-year-old Port Elizabeth Golf Club, the player entered the final round tied for the lead with fellow amateur Adam Brin, both at 12 under. But the final round 67 placed him beyond the reach of any chaser. De Beer joins the likes of Casey Jervis, Christian Mas and Ryan van Velzen, who have since turned pro. And now to tennis, where the governing International Tennis Federation is seeking a new host city for this year's Billie Jean King Cup finals after terminating the agreement it had with Budapest. A source within the ITF confirmed that the revamped women's team competition, formerly known as the Fed Cup, will no longer take place at the Laszlo Papp Arena, having been twice postponed because of COVID-19. The ITF are determined to ensure the competition goes ahead and said they have been left with little option than to terminate the agreement with Budapest and seek a new host. The Emirate Lions have confirmed that 2 of their halfbacks have renewed their contracts, committing their future to the team for the next few seasons. Andrew Werner, who moved over to Lufters Velfield 2 years ago, has renewed his contract, although the Lions did not state for how long. On Wednesday, the side confirmed that Mon van der Berg had also renewed his contract and would continue to be a Lions player for the foreseeable future. To the round letter game, where South Africa's Football Association has confirmed Hugo Broos as the new head coach of Bafana Bafana. The appointment comes after weeks of speculation as to who would succeed Molefi Nseki, who was sacked in March following South Africa's failure to qualify for the 2022 African Cup of Nations in Cameroon. Broos is a Belgian mentor who worked for a number of clubs in Europe. He comes in at a time when South Africa is desperate to qualify for the major tournament, and his first and most difficult task would be to ensure Bafana Bafana qualifies for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
There is a need to rebuild the team and therefore look at the opportunity that the country has now to go to the Olympics and looking at younger players and build the team. But at the same time, the nation wants to win also. That is obvious to him, and he says those are details that he will have to discuss with you. He will present his plans to you and his thinking, his technical team, and you will then have the opportunity to subject all of those presentations to scrutiny, to questions, and your own interrogation when he comes. So we will try to get him here as soon as possible so that he can meet you.
Now staying with football, Barcelona coach Ronald Koeman will be absent from the touchline for Saturday's crunch game at home to Atletico Madrid after the Spanish Soccer Federation Wednesday rejected the club's appeal against a touchline ban. Koeman was sent off in Barcelona's 2-1 home defeat by Granada on April 29th for the comments made to the fourth official after being warned about his conduct. He was given an automatic one-game ban, which was then extended to 2 matches by the Federation's competition committee. Barca are third in the 74 points with 4 games remaining and will leapfrog Atletico if they win on Saturday. And that's it at this time. Sport Update. I am Onyechi Obaro. Now straight to Suleiman for the rest of the bulletin.
Well, thanks, Onyechi. Quickly, let's see what's happening, because I see a storm coming, but this has nothing to do with sports, the weather now. Now, authorities in South Africa's Western Cape say significant rainfall should be expected for the Overberg and Garden Route districts, now with rainfall reaching up to 45 millimeters in some areas. They say this will come when an intense cold, makes landfall today. A major storm is expected tonight with wind gusts of up to 70 kilometers per hour along the southwest coast. Wave heights are expected to be as high as 5.5 meters. Visuals of extreme weather you're seeing are from July of 2020 in East and Western Cape. Authorities are saying there could be a repeat of such this year. Our weather desk has more for the temperatures and precipitation to expect across Africa tomorrow. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. South Africa's ruling African National Congress has suspended its Secretary General, Ace Magashule. 29 college students abducted in Nigeria's northwestern state of Kaduna have regained their freedom. And finally, we told you that Kenya has detected 5 cases of the Indian variant of COVID-19. Now follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also catch up with our news and programs. Just download the News Central TV mobile app on Play Store and iOS. You can also watch us live on Star Times Channel 274. I'm Sulaiman Alede. Many thanks for watching.